Welcome to another episode of the Sipping and Tripping podcast, where we connect with amazing people. Today's conversation is all about dating strategies, compatibility, and personal empowerment. I am your host, Desmond Black, and the person that's sipping and tripping with me today is none other than Miss Erin Watson Mohr. Did I say your last name correctly?
You did, yes.
Okay, because I spent a little bit of time like, oh, I wonder how that is, but okay, I'm glad I got it right. So how are you doing, and how is your week so far?
I'm doing well. The week has been pretty good. I am from Manitoba, and for anybody that maybe knows anything about Manitoba, we have had some insane weather patterns. A lot of tornado systems going through here. One even touched down in the city Monday night. So
Mm,
we're like constantly on our toes. There's been tons of flooding. Yeah, weather patterns are really interesting this summer. So other than that, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm good.
gotcha. That's always a blessing. So Manitoba, so you mean Canada, correct?
I am in Canada. Yeah, that's right.
Nice, nice, nice. I've never been to Canada. I mean, I've never been out the states, but Canada, I don't know. It's something about Canada that's very intriguing. I don't know what it is. For the past like 10 years, I've been saying, I wonder how it is in Canada.
Well, we're
So,
friendly. I mean, at least I am. I don't bite, but and our license plates in Manitoba say friendly Manitoba. However, that's up for debate when you're driving. Maybe bird, depending on what you do in traffic. But no, there's Manitoba's beautiful. You gotta love the prairies, though. I know people have come from the mountains that are here. They're like, "What the heck is this?" For me, I've grown up here, been here most of my life, and so the sunsets, sunrises are incredible. I live in the country, so I'm outside the city, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Like a lot of gratitude for being able to witness things. And the other night, I had my dog outside in the yard when it was dark out, and I saw fireflies. And I'm like, it's just so beautiful to be outside the city noise and be able to see things you wouldn't normally capture in the city. So I am thankful for that.
nice, nice, nice. Now, are you or have you ever been married?
I have been married. I'm going through divorce at the moment. But yes, was married for 21 years.
Hmm. That's 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 a long time. You just grew apart.
No, we did not grow apart. My
Oh,
story is, and I'm not out to throw the other party under the bus. It's not my style with things. However, everybody has a story, and this is a part of what has shaped me. Um, so no, actually, I was a pastor, and we were raising our family like in the church. I worked full
right.
time, and I think in hindsight, as I took time to try to understand what happened because I didn't think that would ever be my story when I got married. We did marry young, but I mean, we married because we loved each other. And I did marry for life. So I was in it no matter what happened, the good, the bad, the ugly, and there was all of that in it. But I believe in like staying with a commitment as long as it's not physically abusive and harmful that way. I wouldn't be an advocate to tell somebody to stay in a marriage when it's not safe. Um,
Right.
it takes two people, so I'm not going to sit here and be like it was all the other person's fault. I think there's ebbs and flows, and everybody has to have accountability for what they bring. Um, but I honestly feel that part of it was just unresolved issues that he was dealing with and hadn't worked through, and made the choice to leave. So I can't do a lot of speaking on his behalf because I'm not here to tell his side of the story, but I believe that's what happened with us. So that kind of put me into a different trajectory um, when that happened.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now that's a little apropos because it fits with today's conversation. So it's good. We're gonna talk about relationships, chemistry, things of that nature. So it's exciting. And like as I said before we went live, it's been a while since I had an episode. So hopefully I'm not rusty. I mean, I'm a natural talker, so I feel fine. I feel confident. I'm always confident, but we shall see. It's gonna be fun as it always is. All right. So do you have your own podcast?
I'm going to be starting one. I haven't started it yet. It's in the works. Something I already have put some thought into and figuring out my target audience. So I'll give you a little bit of context. So I'm actually going to compete in a pageant next month in August. So the days are ticking away and the countdown is on. So I'll be flying out to Toronto to do a regional pageant. And part of, I think, what has inspired me is the fact that I turned 50 last year. So I'm actually almost 51 now. And my girls are older, two daughters that are now adults in post secondary school. And I start to think about what do I want to do with my life outside of like what I'm doing for work and some other things. I think the fact that life took such a change that I didn't see coming 7 years ago when we separated and the marriage ended. Um, and then I lost my dad 3 years ago to cancer unexpectedly, so there's been some big loss and changes in my life, but losing my dad really taught me how our days are numbered and short. You don't know when your last day is. I think that's encouraged me to live more fearlessly and be bold, take risks. So I turned 50 last year. That's kind of like, what do I want to do with my life? I'm like, you know what? I'll try a pageant. Never done one before, but here I am. So all that to say, I really want to inspire women that are in midlife transition going through hard things because it wasn't just a bounce back. It was years of me having to really work on myself, finding new dreams, finding even the desire to live because I went through a deep, dark period of depression after the marriage ended. Um, so yeah, I guess all that to say in that I've been really trying to seek what's my journey purpose for and who do I want to connect with? And so that would be women in midlife transition. Not that they have to run out and do a pageant, but just to say, whatever you're going through, there is somebody there. I want to be an encouragement to women. I want to be that symbol of giving them permission to find their yes and do new things. So that's what's going on. And that is what is in line with the podcast that I'm planning to launch. So sorry if that was long
Well,
winded, but trying to give some
no,
context.
yeah, no, it's perfectly okay. So do you have like a title or name for the podcast that you plan on doing?
Yeah, I do. It's called Unbecoming. Really the point of the podcast and this was my experience was all the expectations and pressures and labels put on me were things that I thought I had to become. And the last 7 years was really an unraveling and unbecoming of who I thought I had to become somebody new. And so there's so much content and subject matter in that I've mapped out, and I think there's a lot of fun conversations, and I'm somebody that likes to go raw, real deep and share my story. So that's kind of what it's gonna be like. So it's this unbecoming to become what you really are meant to be in life. And so that's dissecting some deep, hard things and even figuring out what does it mean. So, for example, having to go through, okay, a wife, what does that look like? Now, I was a wife for all those years. Now I'm not. How do I unbecome that to become what I'm meant to in the next season of life, for example?
I love that. I love that because it's. I might be a man, but I'm all for women empowerment. But on the flip side, I'm the same way with men, right? Like I want men to come together like women do, right? Because you guys are just built differently. You structured differently. You guys do things differently, care more, and hold each other up more so than men hold each other up. So I'm a big supporter and advocate for people doing the right things in life. Since January I've been going to church every Sunday. Yeah, it's been a new journey for me. It's been a good experience, and in my church I have good people, right? And they uplift me, and they're encouraging. Sometimes I have to reach out to them when I'm having a dark time or a bad time, and they give me a scripture or something that brings me out of that darkness, as you spoke about before. So it's good, And when I first started going to church, I thought it was going to be a one off, but yeah, like I said, the very first experience was good. So I was like, I don't want to stray from that. So I made sure I let both of my jobs know I don't work on Sundays. Um, so yeah, it's been a good journey, and I feel good. And sometimes like I have bad days, and I look forward to Sundays, even though it shouldn't be subjected to just one day out the week. I just know on Sundays I don't have a bad day. I go to church, I leave church, I feel empowered, I feel on top of the world, I feel replenished, right? So yeah, that's one thing. I'd be like, no matter what happens through Monday through Saturday, when Sunday comes, it's a refresher for me. So, that's a little bit about myself. Um, let's see a comment. Yeah. Um, how you doing, Tamika? Tamiko. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. So on this platform, I like to conversate, educate, and entertain. But before we get started, I just want to start with the my first question of the day. Um, it's the big question, right? That I want to ask you. Um, what's the best way to pour into a good man?
That's so subjective. Just like, yeah, I want to start off pretty deep, hey. Um, Gosh, yeah, I'm like, if I could do things over again, I'd do them differently for sure because I've changed so much in the 7 years too since my marriage ended. I am all about, I think, like I said, I've always been authentic. That's not new for me. I've always been like an authentic person. But I feel like making space for somebody to feel safe and vulnerable. And I've mentioned in the past about like guarding hearts and really like wanting to make sure that like you know how to guard a man's heart because I don't think every woman knows that, at least from the stories I have heard about from people.
Right.
So I think that's important to learn how to do that. Because I do
Mm.
feel like if a man feels safe, then you've got something definitely you can build off of there for sure.
Okay, I love that. I love that. So that's the thing. A lot of men we tend to hide from the truth. We like to hide from our feelings. A lot of men are afraid to express vulnerability. But as I get older, I embrace those moments, right? Like I like intellectual conversations, like thought provoking conversations. I like to be real, raw, and authentic. Um, so I just tell how it is. A lot of times when I speak on this platform or just in the community, a lot of men look at me like I got three heads. But behind closed doors, they be like, I like what you said. It resonated, right? So I encourage all men to just speak up and just be real with themselves. Don't worry about how they're going to be perceived because that's not living life, right? Be
Yeah.
who you are to the fullest. Hold on, I got a couple other comments. And speaking about church, that's one of my church members. How you doing, Annette? um, so okay, yeah. So that question I asked you was a question I asked like a week ago. I put it on like social media, right? What's a good way to, or the best way to pour into a good man? And I got so many different responses to that. Some of them I agreed with, some of them I didn't. Strangely, a lot of women have told me good men don't exist. And I hate when women do that.
That's not even a fair thing to say. Like, you can't take your experience and make that like across the board. That's one thing I have learned.
Yeah, and the thing is, the women that have told me that, I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I assume that you've been hurt and broken by a man." And a lot of times, women get offensive and they say, "Oh, don't speak for me. I haven't been hurt. I would never allow a man to hurt me." But that kind of trauma, that kind of response, comes from somewhere. It
Yeah,
just don't come out of thin air. So it's good men, just like it's good women everywhere. You just got to find them. Maybe you're not looking in the right places, right? Like we are creatures of habit. Sometimes we tend to gravitate to the same type of person, which may not be the best or might not be healthy for us. And that's the problem. So at the end of the day, we all have to spend time with ourselves and get to know who we are and understand what our values are and what we will go for and what we won't go for. And once we figure that out, the rest is history. It should be easier to find the right person, right? Now, life ain't perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. So we're gonna have bumps and bruises, but that's how we find the right one. We will never know if it's a good woman out there or a good man until we step out there in the fire, right? We have to test the laws of limitation. A lot of people are afraid to do that. A lot of people try to, like you said earlier, protect our own hearts, and we like, oh, I don't want to get hurt, so we don't try. And sometimes we just go for what's easy or what's readily available, and you just got to take chance. Life is about taking chances.
100%.
Um, let's see. I don't know what that's about. Okay. So, in your opinion, what is a good man?
Yeah, well, somebody who's honest. And that seems hard to come by these days, in my experience. Um, yeah, you know what? Like looking for somebody that would align with my values and what I'm looking for. I didn't think I'd still be single 7 years after. um,
Mm,
and I really honestly didn't start looking. I I really hung on to the marriage and I really wanted to keep it and make it work. So for 3 years, I still was like 100% invested in my marriage, even though it was over on his end. I still worked on me, and regardless, because I was like, whether this marriage works or doesn't work, I'm still a healthier version of me if I work on me anyways. So I did that, but it ended up becoming something where it just wasn't going to work out. So then I chose, okay, well, then I'm going to I felt like I had healed to the point where I could bring a healthier version of me, because I don't think people, and this is my opinion, I'm going to probably get a lot of haters on this, but I think just rebounding and going from relationship to relationship, you don't deal with the stuff, the debris, the aftermath, the residue, whatever, especially if you've been in a marriage for a long time. There's a lot. So to just think they're going to go shift gears and going to find somebody else, I think is really not the best plan. So, having said that though, yeah, finding somebody who's honest, trustworthy, integrity for me is key, and somebody who can be held accountable. Those are all big words that I find are not so readily available. Um, so sometimes it makes it a challenge. I just have to apologize. My computer is now not charging, so I'm kinda, like, watching it. I'm, like, fiddling with the cable, but it's, like, not charging, so I'm, like, I have some time
uh-oh.
on it still, but I'm, like, if you lose me for some reason, that would be why. I'm trying to, like, get it to still, like, connect. Sometimes I have issues with it where the cord is finicky. So
Right.
anyways, I apologize in advance if I, like, disappear. It's not gonna happen in the next 5 minutes, but I was, like, just gonna give you the heads up on that, so
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay. So, okay, in your opinion, what are some good dating strategies?
my gosh, I don't even know if I have good dating strategies. Like, I mean, I've been on dates and stuff, and I just show up being real. I'm not a fluff person. I'm like, I just wanna know if this potentially could work with somebody. So, I think initially, like, when I first started dating 3.5 years ago, I had a totally different strategy. Not strategy, actually, it wasn't a strategy at all. I just had a different way of doing it, and I realized it was probably not the best way, and that was because I was trying to recreate what I had. I'd been married so long, so I was trying to find somebody I could just jump into something serious and deep with, and kinda shared my whole story to get it out there on the first date, which was a lot of, like, heavy topic, and be like, "Okay, are we a match?" Um, and that did lead to other dates. It's not like it repelled people at all. But I think the longer I took to explore and give me time to just like have fun and not make it be so serious, the more I was like, I just want to show up and be me and not worry so much about does it have to be a match right off the bat. Can I just
Right.
go and have fun having a conversation, enjoying a time out with somebody? Um, so yeah, that kind of changed how I approach things. But I just like to sit down and like have a coffee or a glass of wine and go face to face and be like, What's your background? What do we align on?" Because at 50, I'm not looking to waste my time. Like, I'm just not
Mm.
really wanting to like make new friends. If I'm dating, I have a lot of friends. I have a great friend circle. So my point for dating is not to go make new friends. It would be to find somebody to build a partnership with. So I am intentional that way with why I would put myself out there.
Gotcha, gotcha. I mean, it's so the dating pool is tough these days, right? I hear a lot of people complain about it, the dating apps and all that stuff. Have you did any dating apps?
Yes, of course I have, and I'm off all of them now. I'm not even on any. I was like, "Okay, I'm so done." I was on and off, on and off. I've probably done, I don't know, 8 to 10 different ones. I paid for some, then I got tired of that. I just went like the free route. And I was meeting people, but a lot of it ended up being young guys in their 20s, and I was like, "Sorry, that's a no-go zone for me. I have daughters." I'm like, "I'm not into that." So, and like I am intentional. So I'm not just looking to
Yeah.
like have a good time. Um, and then ghosting, like the amount of
Yeah.
conversations you have and then they're gone. I was like, okay, I guess we're not talking anymore. So, and sometimes it could go on for days. Sometimes it'd be a matter of like a half hour. But I'm so over trying to invest time into getting to know somebody to have them not be serious. And I'm like, I'm just done. So I'm
Yeah.
focusing on other
It's
things right now.
and that's the thing, it's hard. It's like, when you have all the time in the world, they'll question why you have so much time. Like you don't work, you don't do this and that. Or if you work, then they complain and say you're not available. Right. So it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know. I don't think nobody takes relationships serious these days, especially dating, like the dating apps we was just speaking about. Like, I don't know. I just think people get on dating apps for out of boredom. Right. Was that your experience?
For sure, for
Because
sure.
like
I'm
this,
sure
like this,
everybody's got different reasons, so I can't, say why everybody's on there, but definitely it'd be just a lot of hookups, a lot of not serious intention, and
yeah.
that I live with intention. So,
Y
again, not me.
yeah, I got you. It's tough. And some people, they say they get on them for intention, right? They lead with intention. Like, I don't think they always do. I just like, I don't know. So it's again, it's hard. And then but what makes it hard is if you get off the dating apps and then you try to meet people out in the community, right? It's like, well, you just met them for like 5 minutes, and then, "Hey, you wanna exchange phone numbers?" They look at you like you're crazy. "I don't even know you, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "What?" Like, it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. The
Yeah,
dating apps don't work, meet people in real life don't work, like, what is the solution? So, it's very difficult. Like, at work, I've recently asked random people, like, certain questions that's, that centers around relationships or love or dating apps, and, I got a lot of responses because I knew we was gonna have this episode. So I was like, all right, I could use some of that. But it is hard. I mean, I've known people that said they've been going on several dates for the past 5 years and haven't gotten in a relationship. Like, I mean, that's wild. It's wild. Um, so the next question, how do you recognize when you're compatible with somebody?
I would say there has to be like some core values. That's what I'm looking for. Like, and originally the old me would have been looking to have everything be like a perfect match. And I've grown and evolved so much that like differences don't threaten me anymore. Like, so we can be
Right.
very different. And I'm not looking for somebody to start a family with. I have my family. So like my reasons for dating and wanting to have a life partner now look very different. I'm not needing to go in and like I'm not in my 20s again, starting that. But I think somebody whose values align with mine, if we don't align, like we got nothing. And that has to be something that's foundational to any relationship. So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and that's another thing that's just trying to figure out how, like, if you're compatible with somebody, because sometimes we might feel like we're compatible, but it has to go both ways as well, right? Like, so it's certain signs that, like, I try to look for, whether it be with myself or just observing other people. And sometimes it seems like it's perfect, but again, we go back to intentions. What are the people's intentions? So it's hard for me to recognize compatibility, you know.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, if you're both in the same space where you're both smiling, you're both laughing, you're both engaging with each other, I feel like that's the building blocks for compatibility. But it has to be longevity, but that's the thing that's hard too. Like, not really longevity, but like it has to be at least a week of consistency for me to start saying, okay, this is compatible, right? Because anybody can be entertaining for a day or two, right? It's about how long can we continue this, right? Keep that fire going. Um, but yeah, compatibility, love, relationships, it's all hard work. And that's the thing. A lot of us is afraid of putting in the work, right? We become complacent and lazy and we get stuck in the mud. We have to continue to work, right? We got to treat it like a 9 to 5 or a career. That's how we got to go. That's how we got to approach it, because you can't go to work and clock in and say, I'm going to do half the work and think you're going to keep your job. No. Same thing in the relationship. You can't go in half-assed and think that other person is going to be engaged and think that other person is going to be attracted to you. Like, it just doesn't work that way, especially now with the economy. If you're not showing up financially, it's like hard maintain a friendship or a relationship, right? Even
Yeah.
friendships, like you can be like, wait, we're not together. Well, like, why does it matter what I make? Because in the free time, your friend might want to go have a good time, and if you say, well, I'm broke, I don't work, then it's a disconnect there. So you just got to keep showing up. You gotta put in that work, right? You can't be afraid of adversity or any of that. You just gotta look it in the face and say, the devil's a lie. I will prosper. I will grow.
Yeah, and there has to be like ebbs and flows to that. I mean, I was married 21 years, so that shows my loyalty, my commitment. Um, but yeah, being this much older and this much more, I think, mature in the journey, there's a lot of things I bring that are different now. I think I'm just my experience from having a marriage end and choosing to use that as a launching pad to, I think, build me into a new version of me has definitely shaped some different building blocks in what I want to do in a new relationship. And like I said, so definitely one of those things of being different that used to threaten me a lot. Differences would threaten me and be like, oh, we're so like not, we wouldn't be not compatible because I was married to a person, but it just put fear into me, I guess, in whatever way. And I'm not like that anymore. And I'm not looking for somebody to be a perfect match that has to go on every vacation with me. Like, I got friend groups I can go. Like, I'm just actually looking for somebody at the end of the day to come home to, share some things with. This happened in my day. Somebody be emotionally available. Um, I feel like it's just so
Companionship.
much less demanding at this season of life for what I want. It's simplified.
Simplify. I think that comes with age because as I get older, I look at life through a different lens. Like everything's different. Like I'm okay with being having a comfortable silence, right? And a lot of relationships I was in have told me like, what is a comfortable silence in a relationship? I'm like, one of my pet peeves is like first thing in the morning, I don't want to hear good morning. I'm sorry, I don't. Like, like a lot of people say, what's wrong with that? Like, no. When I wake up, besides my kids, that first hour I like to myself to decompress, self-reflect, and just get my bearings together. I don't want to get bombarded with a whole bunch of questions or good mornings and stuff like that. Like I'm okay with a comfortable silence, but it's at the same time, like my love language is physical touch. I like to cuddle. I like the the touching aspect. Like I like that. Like a hug or something like that. But like just as long as it's not too much. Like don't just rush me and flood me with all this stuff because that's just too much. As I get older, like I said, it's just everything is slowed down. Put it that way. I think that's the cleaner way to put it. Um, yeah, like I like art museums. I got a huge appreciation for art. Like I like doing stuff like that. A lot of people my age, not that I'm young anymore, but I'm not old either. But they say, "If you like that, you're into that kind of stuff." I'm like, yes. Like I like go to like poetry conventions and stuff like that. But that kind of stuff, it does it for me. Like I love a thought provoking conversation. Like we said that before. Like if you can hold my attention with conversation, that's going to take us a long way. You know.
Yeah.
Um. So I. So I have a good question for you. What about relationships make you feel empowered?
Having space to feel safe. I think safety
Mm,
would be the key thing for like me to feel like I could show up and be me and not be judged, have all my
mm.
quirks like accepted. Um, yeah.
That's
I think
important.
like
That's
women need to feel safe. That's a big thing. Is like, is it a safe space for us to like bare our hearts? Women are emotional. I mean, not every woman is, but generally, when you compare the sexes, women, because we're nurturers, we're
yeah,
feelers. Um,
yeah,
so um yeah, you need space to like, I don't know, shed a tear and not feel judged for it. Watch a really moving commercial and like grab for that Kleenex and be like, oh my gosh, she's so over the top. Or the opposite of like a woman who's successful
mm,
who so in my past being a pastor, a female pastor in a man's dominated vocation back in the day when I was pastoring, a lot of people would write me off like, well, she wears the pants in the family. Well, that's just the assumption you're making because I'm the one on the platforms. I'm the one that's the face kind of the marriage because at that time, like my ex was more in the background. and I was one who was the pastor up front. I'm the musician. I'm the more outgoing one, so I was more
Right.
visibly seen. And yet that was like the furthest thing from the truth. I didn't wear the pants in the family at all. So I think you can get both ends where women can also be um, just judged for being too over the
Oh,
top. So
yeah, yeah.
safety for me is key. I think that would empower me to show up and just be able to feel free to be myself.
That's very important. But truth be told, a lot of these characteristics and traits that we put on women, right? It's the same thing with men, right? Men just afraid. Again, like I said earlier, men are afraid to show that vulnerability or be truthful with themselves. Like men, and I'm gonna speak for all men when I say this. Like we want to feel uh free, not free, safe as well, right? Like I've asked that question before. Like, do men want to feel safe in a relationship? And of course, men be like, no. And I don't mean safe like protection. We also want protection from a woman, and that don't mean from like physical harm, right? Because feeling safe goes a long way. Like protecting our hearts. We want our hearts to be
Guarding
protected
of
as
the
well.
heart. Yeah, I was
We
talking about.
we share the same feelings. We're human. We get emotional. We just wear it on our sleeves. We wear it differently. Like uh men and women are so much more alike than people put out, right? We want that safety. We want all the things that women want, right? We want to feel valued and all that. Like that's a key thing. Like men want to feel valued and important. When we don't feel that, then that's where, I'm not just saying that that's the core reason, but that's where infidelity and all this shit come from. Because we look, if we don't get it from our women, we look to somebody that will give it to us. So yeah. Speaking about a man though, let me ask you this. This is a good one. When a man feels overwhelmed, right? Do you allow him to turn to you when things feel like it's falling apart, or do you feel like it's on a man to handle his own shit?
It's a great question because I feel like that's twofold because I haven't been in a really like serious committed relationship. Like I've gone on dates. I feel like I've been in more of a situationship than an actual long-term committed relationship. So there'd be like I haven't had the opportunity to really experience that as the new Erin. I know how
Right.
I handled it as a married woman, and I feel like that would be an instance where maybe I would have like felt afraid, not because I couldn't handle the issues that would come to me. It would be more of like I wanted to feel fear was like a big thing that would control me. So in order to
Right.
like try to combat the fear, then it's like, oh, you got to be the problem solver and you got to like figure out the solutions. And so I would go into like control mode of like, let's try to fix this and whatever. Whereas I feel like now that wouldn't be my goal. There would just be more hold space. Just because of the evolution of me having gone through what I've gone through now, definitely being able to hold space for something. I don't think it's on a man to hold this shit together at all. And I think like there's too much of that stereotype that's like you figured out, you're the man. Like you can't
Mm.
cry a tear. Like you gotta be the one who's always like strong. And I think a man needs to feel that he can be weak and show his weakness and not be judged for it. Because, like you said, we're human on both
Right.
sides of the coin. So,
Yeah, and that's the thing, I can't stand the people that's one way out in the free world and they different behind closed doors. I can't stand it. Like I've seen so many women melt over a man that's emotional or that shows chivalry and stuff like that, right? But when they're around their family and friends, they say, "Oh, that's a weak man," right? Like I hate that term, a weak man. And I often ask people, what's a weak man? Right. And a lot of the responses, it's like it's human nature. It's it's crazy to me. It's bizarre. It's like, why you call this man a weak man? Like because he hold the door open for you, or because he's I don't know, he might be proper, or he might like the finer things in life. You say he's a weak man. Like I never understood that. Right. It's not
I
like
think it's more
say
of an
say
aware man, somebody who's actually more aware, not afraid to do that. That doesn't show
yeah,
weakness. It shows a
but
sign of
but
strength.
I get it so much though. Like, like again, I like to do like a question of the day on social media, like as much as I can. Um, And I ask a lot of these questions, and I'll be expecting people to dig deep and give like good responses, but sometimes they're just one liners, and that's what I be getting. Like, oh, he's weak. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So, but then on the flip side, if they the ones that in failing relationships or failing marriages. So I'm like, if this is a weak man and you're going against the grain and you're going against everything, like for what you say is a strong man or dominant man, but they're putting you down constantly, and you're crying and you're emotionally unstable week to week, maybe you're looking in the wrong places. And again, this goes back to the women that say it's no good men out there, because you're not looking for the right man. You're not looking for a good man. You're looking for the wrong man, right? And you're criticizing the good man. So it's crazy. It's crazy
Well,
how the
or
world is.
those people haven't spent the time to sit in their own stuff, to figure out their own stuff. So then I find the tendency, because like I'm guilty of this, I'm just going to label other people, but like when you haven't looked inward, it's easy to start projecting your stuff onto other people because you're not looking inward to deal with the depth of the wounds that you're carrying or why you feel what you feel or think what you think, right? Like, so I think people that haven't done that are just very quick to label something and judge it without going deep.
Yeah, projecting. Yeah, I got you. So go back to the vulnerability of a man, right? How should a man process negative emotions or stress without feeling like he's showing up as a weak man or showing weakness?
I honestly don't. I think we need to like throw out the whole like terminology of a weak man. Just let a man show up and be who he needs to be, whether it's like cry some tears over something, because men have this whole, most men, there's some that don't feel this way, but in my experience most men feel like they need to hold it together and crying is a sign of weakness. I feel like for a man to be able to feel like he can be vulnerable, just be what you need to be, but you've got to find a woman that can hold space for you, and I think that's easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah. Like we were saying at the top of the conversation, yeah, it's hard. And that's the thing about life. It's just so hard. And you know how it's a saying like we live and we learn. We live, we learn, we live, or we think we learning, but we keep falling victims to the same stuff. And it's discouraging sometimes, right? And that's one thing about me uh turning my life over to God and faith and stuff. It's like when I have those moments where I'm like, yo, this is it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm never going to move forward, right? And I think about the Sundays. I think about the faith and church and the religious people that I know, and I say, you know what? No, the devil is a lie. Like I know what I was born to be, and I'm not going to let nothing or nobody stand in the way of that. And that's what keeps me through sometimes. I reach out to people in the church, and I need a scripture. I need something. I need some kind of spiritual guidance because I am going through it. So even with that, I've been told like, oh my God, you weak because you be going through it. I'm not allowed to have emotions or feelings. That's crazy to me. But like I said, I do have some good people in my life, and so I try to keep them close. I'm in the stage of my life where, as you said earlier, we're not in our 20s. We're not trying to live the fast life and do all this nonsense. I'm trying to keep people in my life. So if you enter my life, I'm trying to keep you in my life, right? Now I know on Facebook, my name on there is Roy, right? But like I go by Desmond, right? So a lot of people is like, well, why you got two names? Well, Desmond is my middle name. So what I like to tell people is if you're just gonna be a passerby, somebody that like say hi, you just call me Roy, right? But if you plan on sticking around, call me Desmond. That's what I tell everybody. Like, and it's more personable for me, right? Um, so yeah, that's what I like to tell people. So if you call me Desmond, I expect you to stick around. I don't expect you to ghost me or talk to me once a year. Like, no, no, I gave you that option in the beginning. Call me Roy, call me Desmond. So I know where we stand.
I like that.
Uh
That's pretty clever.
so okay. What is the best piece of relationship advice that you've received, and how has it shaped your actions?
Gosh, forgiveness. Forgiveness. I don't think I'd be where I am without forgiveness. I have really tried to model my life after that. And my parents instilled that into me. And that that was modeled for me before I even got married. So relationships across the board. I wouldn't even say romantic relationships, friend relationships, work relationships, different like power dynamics between your boss and you, whatever. Forgiveness is key, and forgiveness is not about letting the other person off the hook. Forgiveness is about taking you out of the prison so you can live your life and be free and move forward.
I
People get
love
that
that.
mixed up a lot. So I think forgiveness is so key, and I wouldn't be where I am today without it. Because, it's not a one time thing. Here's the way I look at it: is initially I need to make myself, and this is a standard I have for me, be quick to forgive, to verbalize it. But I think what catches a lot of people is that they don't feel ready. Like, I can't forgive. I don't feel ready. Like, I have done a lot of life coaching, also a lot of counseling in my previous years when I was a pastor. And I've done a lot of work on leading people into places of forgiveness. And people just feel like they're not ready because the emotions that are tied to that person or that event that they have to forgive. And sometimes it's even like self forgiveness. I have to forgive me for these things I did or allowed. But it's not tied to emotion. So I'm like, just do it. Just verbalize it. Just say the words. Emotions catch up later. And sometimes it takes years. And I
Mhm.
find like there's some experiences I've gone through in my life where I have done the forgiveness, but the emotions are still there. There's grief tied to it. And grief is not linear. Grief is like up and down. You can think you've dealt with it in certain ways, and then all of a sudden you have another like resurgence of it. So I think being easy with yourself, to give yourself grace to walk through that, I'm a big advocate for allowing emotions to like come through you instead of like stuffing them down and being uncomfortable and being like, I can't feel this way, or I dealt with this years ago. I think we need to give ourselves permission to feel. I'm big on that because it's part of forgiveness, and that's part of finding freedom and part of living a healthy life. So yeah, that's my soapbox: forgiveness on all counts, every relationship, because friends are going to hurt you too. And it's not
Absolutely.
intentional, but it does happen. And
Right.
that's just gone a long ways for me in forgiving and really trying, because I'm a parent, trying to hold myself to that standard to model it for my girls so that they see
Right.
that their mother is not just a talker on that, but I'm actually a doer. And they see that it matches my walk and my talk. So
Now, I love the way you just unpacked that just now because that's the thing. Part of forgiveness. Well, first of all, forgiveness is very hard to do, right?
yeah,
But forgiveness also comes with control, right? Having self control. Once you have self control and understand that you can't control any and everything and everybody, you can only control what you can control. So part of forgiveness is understanding that because you can't control other people's actions or what they might have done to you. So you got to love yourself to know that, like, okay, I'm gonna move past that. I'm not gonna let that person live rent free, you know.
yeah,
Um, Live in my head rent free. Like I can't allow them to control me because that's what it is. When you hold on to resentment, that person or that entity is having control over you, right? And you just can't allow that to happen. You got to have enough love and respect for yourself to move past it and just move forward. Like if that person wronged you that much, part of forgiving is you forgive that person and you're going to disassociate yourself from that person. I don't have to live with you. I don't have to deal with you. I'm going to move forward and I'm going to progress without you. That's it.
but it
Um,
doesn't mean you have to let them in your life. Like, it
right.
doesn't, yeah, forgiveness is not, oh, they get a free pass to stay in my life. Like, it's a
Yeah,
whole other
no.
conversation, like boundaries and having some healthy things in place around you. I've learned a lot about that. Um, but yeah, I love what you said.
Now, speak about boundaries. So, what is a specific habit or boundary that you have to keep yourself emotionally available for the people you love?
A habit I have, this wouldn't be a boundary, but a habit is I've really gotten into taking care of myself holistically. And this was part of my
Mm,
healing journey when the marriage ended because I was pastoring in the church. The church did a great job of caring for people's spirits, making sure we're spiritually fed with scriptures and we know where we're going and whatever pertaining to life on earth in a spiritual manner. Sometimes you get stuff like physical things like um, I don't even know if I can think of an example, but like, like a health class or how to eat healthy or whatever. We're offering this, to people that want to take this workshop. But the whole soul realm was neglected. And there's mental health issues and there's other issues that pertain to the soul. It's the thoughts, the emotions, all of that. I don't think the church does a good job caring for the soul at all. In my experience, I was raised in the church and pastored in it for 20 years. So when I left church, when I quit pastoring and I left, my whole thing when I started my coaching business was to work on holistic healing because I saw where the gap was. And so that was something I worked on within myself.
Right.
And I've gone for counseling. I've done stuff to empower myself to be a healthier version of me. So holistic, I make sure I'm doing stuff physically. I love to work out. I just always have done that my whole life. Now I'm lifting weights. I'm doing competitive dragon boat. I like to cycle, hike, just all kinds of things. For me, that was a holistic way to heal myself because it felt like there's some days in the journey when like the marriage had ended, it was pretty fresh. Like I didn't know if I
Mm.
wanted to live through the night to make it to the next day. That was where I hit this deep, dark depression because life as I knew it
Right.
was shattered. So going for a run and crying my guts out felt really like healthy and holistic for me to be able to do that physically and then to get
Right.
the emotions out. And then I would be like connecting with God. Sometimes I'd be yelling at him. I live in the country, so I don't have neighbors around for a good mile. So I could like ask him hard questions. I could be myself and show up and be like, I'm confused, I'm angry, I'm this, I'm that. And it for me, it was a spiritual rejuvenation because I was getting pent up emotions of having my world shattered out. So that for me is like a lifestyle journey that I still live by. Like, I mean, I did a workout before we got onto the podcast today. I would like to work out to keep my body physically fit, but it's so good for my mind and my spirit. So I think all three parts of us, because as humans, we're spirit, soul, body, all three need to be in check and they all need to
Mm.
be in a healthy working order. And when one portion of that makeup is out of order, then I think people need to, I think, become aware as to know what does that look like? What are the clues to know that maybe my soul is off balance or my
Right.
body's off? Sometimes body, I think, can maybe be a little bit easier to, I feel faint. I feel super hungry. I feel parched. I'm overweight. Like there's physical things you can feel and see to know that there may be areas to work on. The soul, it can be very gray. And it's like, how do I know how to deal with that?
Right.
So that for me has become really like a lifestyle thing.
Right. Now, I know you say you just turned 50 or about to turn 50.
I turned 50 last August, so I'm coming up to 51 next month.
Yeah. Got you, got you. So, okay, so at 51, is marriage still a thought for you, like a remarriage, or is it just I just want to live comfortably with a companion?
Yeah. Okay. If you want to hear the real raw answer, because everybody would think, oh, she's a pastor. she should. She would only think of marriage. Yeah. I have different thoughts. I know what would be probably the better, healthier, politically correct answer, biblically correct, maybe not politically correct, biblically correct answer would be. However, due to my story and my journey, there's sometimes I have the thoughts of like, yeah, it'd be way easier to just not be married. Just like move in with somebody and whatever happens, happens. And that's a part of me wanting to guard and protect my heart from getting hurt again. So I don't know. I have conversations with God a lot about this. And I'm like, would I want to do that again? Am I capable of loving somebody again? I don't know. I think I am. I think I am. Like, I'd like to think that, like, God's a big enough God. He could heal me to the point where I could. But when I was married, I loved the person like very deeply. So when that marriage ended, I literally was shattered. I literally was shattered. So the thought of giving somebody that kind of space in my heart again is not something I
Yeah,
reconciled yet. So
gotcha. Now, okay,
so
I
that was
know
the
you're
honest, vulnerable answer you got, like unfiltered. You heard it
no,
here
no,
first.
yeah, it's nothing wrong with that. So I was just about to talk about marriage a little bit because I get a lot of flack for what I'm about to say, but it's my truth, right? And I tell people all the time, you can't be wrong for your beliefs, right? You can't be wrong for your truths. Like I just don't feel like you can. So this is my thing. Before I get into that, let me ask you this. Like, okay, I know you've been married. What is your viewpoint on marriage? Do you feel like marriage should be the end goal. Now, it don't have to be for you per se. It could be just just in general. Should marriage be the end result or the end goal?
I don't know how to answer that now at this age. I know what I would have said like back in the earlier years, and some questions you're asking me I don't have answers for because life has reshaped me so differently than I ever thought. And I'm speaking very real and honest to you. So some of my friends, if they catch this, might be, oh my gosh, I can't believe Erin thinks that way. Or people I used to pastor, be like, oh my gosh, like she was my pastor and she thinks this way. I'm just being real because another thing the church is good at is not being real. Let's be fake and let's all just put our hands up and say praise the Lord. And at the end of the day, we're just leave it there. Like we're human, and I think we need to be real and honest and have some great conversations like these. So, um, the end goal was to get married. In my experience in my earlier years,
Right.
because like sex outside of marriage was just not going to be an option. So that was the end goal.
Mm,
So let's get married so that can happen. Well, culture and society has changed a lot. Not that that wasn't happening back then. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but I'm talking about my life experience, the way I was raised, and my own journey, the way I saw it. And then you now have society the way it is, and that really I don't think is most people's end goal anymore.
right.
So I don't know that I have an answer for you in that's so cut and dry, where the old Aaron would be very black and white, and I'm like, I don't know, I've lived through stuff that's messy now. I don't
Right.
know. I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay. That is
Yeah.
I learned to be like, it's okay to sit with the tension and wrestle these things, and it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make God not love me. It makes me real
Right.
and human and be like, there's space to explore this and have room to figure it out.
Got you. Now I ask that because like again, I get a lot of flack for this. Like, when women ask me, "Are you looking to get married?" And honestly, my answer is no. I proposed to one woman in my life. I proposed to her twice, and it was it was a shit show. It was a disaster. Yeah. So the first time I proposed to her, her mother knew about it. I told her mother, right? It was like, don't say nothing. She told her. So it ruined my whole moment. And to the point where I was like, I'm not even gonna do it. But the woman I was with at the time, she was like, "So where's my ring?" I said, "What ring?" She said, "My mom just told me you got a ring you was gonna propose." I'm like, "What the fuck?" So I gave it to her, and it was just like, why did I even do that? It was no emotion, no nothing. So then I waited like 2 months later. But let's rewind a little bit. She complained about the ring size, and I was like, "Wow." So right there in my mind, I was like, "Oh, this ain't a good woman. You are materialistic. You worried about the size and all this stuff." But nevertheless, 2 months later, I proposed with the style of ring that she wanted. It was bigger. I invested more money in it, and again, it was to me. I was well thought out, well planned, and I was like, "This is going to be a great moment." It was so dull. She said, "Oh, okay, yes," and I was like, "Oh, nah." So that kind of took marriage out of the equation for me. And then, years later, I thought I was gonna get married again. The relationship didn't work out. So it's like, I don't know. I don't really think about marriage. And my thing is, it's not that I'm against it, but I just don't think that marriage is what it's supposed to be. It's not, marriage is not the same way it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. I think nowadays people get married for possession just to say you're mine, right? And people hate what I said. Like nowadays, marriage is more so like captivity. It's slavery, for lack of better words. It's like you put the ring on. It's like bondage. It's like, okay, you got that ring, you bound to me. And love, relationships and marriage is supposed to be about love, and it's just not that no more. Every year they do a census, and they said marriages hold the space for the most failed relationships, right? Like that's a fact. It's been like that every year. Like people that say they're in a committed, serious relationship, they stay in that relationship longer. And my thought process is this: this is where I compartmentalize things and break it down. I say, okay, when you're in a serious relationship and you talk about marriage, you have something to look forward to, right? But once you get married, you no longer have nothing to look forward to because you don't reach that. Now it's like, what's after that?
All
Now
down
it's about
there.
now you're just going through the motions and everything like that, and that's where that spark dies. You lose that fire because you no longer have something to look forward to. So I will say, I'm not saying marriages can't work, but for it to work every day, it has to be a challenge. You have to love that person. It has to be like a game of who loves who more type of thing. Because as long as you have that little friendly competition, you're always going to be looking for ways to upstage the other one. You're always going to be looking for uh, ways to improve that marriage, that relationship, or make it better to spice things up. And that's what I think. I think that yeah, when you're in a serious relationship, you have something to look forward to because every day is like, oh yeah, get closer to marriage, or I'm going to propose on this day, or say you propose and you set a date for the marriage. Now you have something to look forward to, and once you get married, you no longer have that to look forward to. So you might, and I tell this to a lot of people too in relationships. You might live together, right? You're growing with each other, but you're not growing the same, and that's a conflict as well. Every
Can
day
I
it has to
interject
be
and say
about.
something?
Say it again.
I said, can I interject and say something?
Absolutely.
Um, Initially, I think by God's design, marriage was meant to be a covenant. We don't
Yeah.
hear the word covenant spoken about too much these days.
Right.
And we also see marriage and relationships that look contractual now. So people take it more as a contract. Very
That's what I
two
mean. Yeah.
different things. So in a marriage, like that's covenant based before God, what you're signing up for is different than like a contract. And the contracts are like, oh well, okay, he broke his word, I can rip this up and we can like end it. Whereas a covenant is something you sign up to stay in for life. So there's a lot to unpack there. We'd have to do a whole nother like series on that. And there's some other thoughts surrounding that, like because there's a lot of, I had to get out of some of the Christian culture that really believed that like when you're divorced you can't get remarried. Like it's so
Mm,
unbiblical, and that like God does not bless a new union. And I'm like, don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that
yeah.
at all. Because for somebody in my situation, I didn't choose to end the marriage. I did enter a covenant. I was loyal and faithful.
Hmm.
And my marriage didn't end because of some betrayal at all. Like there wasn't infidelity, or I'm just gonna put that out there. Um, so people don't have to think about that. But I think that like, yeah, I don't know, just the whole thing of covenant, there's a lot to dive into and explore. And um yeah, I think I'll just end there because I feel like I could go on such a big tangent with that. And that really is opening up a can of worms that we could dive into another time if you ever want to have me back.
Absolutely. Listen, I tell people, all my guests, once you join on and I have you as a guest, we like family. That's the way I like to look at it, right? Like I've had several people on like multiple shows, like, and I keep in touch with. I would say maybe like 70% of the people that's been a guest on the show. And that's that community that I'm trying to build. You know, I started my second podcast, which I got to get back to doing. It's the other one's a faith-based podcast. I only have 2 episodes on there, but I will get back to that. I have a real good topic coming up for that. But yeah, like I said, I started my spiritual journey in January, and so a lot of people of faith been saying, "Hey, you should change your podcast." And I'm like, I'm not changing it. Like, this is my baby. This is the catalyst. This is where I started. So that's why I have two. But I will say this because a couple times during the show, you've been talking about fake people in the church. Listen, I'm I wasn't going to touch it, but this is my thing. It's fake people no matter where you go,
There's
and
fake people
I f-
everywhere, 100%.
I feel like when you go to church, you should go to church for self, not for anybody else. And I say that to say this, like, don't worry about the fake people that may be in church. Long as you go to church for the right reasons, none of the other stuff matters, right? And not to get all religious, but it's like now that I go to church, it's certain things I look at differently. Like people be like, "GD, oh, can we reframe that? Can we choose a different word or different terminology?" It's certain things that bother me now that it wouldn't have bothered me then. Because for years I've been saying, as an adult, I wouldn't be caught dead in the church. I wouldn't step foot in the church, and the devil's a lie
Never
because
say
I go
never.
every Sunday. Absolutely. So I'm a motivator. I like to encourage people, uplift people. I'm all about positivity. So when people talk about faith, they talk about God, talk about religion. I get excited these days, right? Because it's brought value to my life. So again, that's what I wanted to say earlier when you were talking about fake people in the church. Now, this is another thing, and people in my church, they look at me like I got three heads sometimes, but I from the way society say you should be in church, strive for perfection. I'm not going to church for that. My whole my the, the biggest reason for me going to church is to become better with myself and to show up better for those around me and to have a strong relationship with God. That's why I go to church for. It's a lot of things that biblically that I do not agree with, like you said about the whole having intercourse and the marriage thing. I don't believe that. And I just can't see myself saying, "Oh well, if I ain't married, I'm not having sex." I just can't see that. It's just certain things like that. It's some things that biblically I should let go of, but that I'm not willing to let go of, right? And some people have said, "Well, you're not of the faith," and that's not true, right? Because of the faith is just really believing in God. It's about living life to the fullest, living with love and not hatred. And that's the way I look at it. Like it's a lot of things that in church they say you're not supposed to do, but I
Being
don't
in
live by
church
that
doesn't
code.
get you to heaven. Like you can sit
Yeah,
with your ass on a pew every Sunday, warm it up for the hour that you're there. That doesn't guarantee you into heaven at all. Like so, and I actually I'm on the flip side of you. So I grew up in the church, was a pastor in a church for 20 years, raised my girls in the church. And I'm not in church anymore. And that's a whole nother podcast story we can do there too. And
yeah,
people may be like, oh, she calls herself like a Christian or this or that. And I'm like, I actually don't even call myself a Christian anymore because Christian connotation has such a different um there's a whole different narrative surrounding that now. And I found walking away from the church, and again, I can only speak to my journey. So I'm never making blanket statements, but my journey was like leaving the church, not leaving people of faith that I've been surrounded by. I still have a lot of people that are in my life that are from church that I've kept relationships with. But that's not what's going to get me into heaven is being there every Sunday. And I found going through the hardest things in my life of having a marriage and being betrayed by people in the church that said they had my back, having my dad die of cancer very unexpectedly. I don't have answers to that, any of those things. And I chose not to turn my back on God through that time, but instead ask questions. And I maybe will never get the answers. Did I get an answer to every question I asked? No. Did it mean I turned my back on God or God wasn't a good God? God wasn't a faithful God? No. It just for me meant I had to choose to believe God's still real in spite of what's going on in my life, in spite of the things I never thought would be part of my story. And I chose to use those things to grow my faith. So I want to say I actually am probably closer to God now than I ever was as a paid pastor in a church for 20 years
right,
because experience has shaped me more. And it's not about being religious. I hate the word religious. So I don't consider myself religious at all. I just have my
right.
own relationship with God, me and him, and we do life together. And
I love that.
that's why I choose to walk in accountability. Like I'm very big on like owning my mistakes and if I hurt people or whatever, like all of that stuff
Yeah.
because I think that is part of a core value and part of a healthy lifestyle. But yeah, so you and I have different stories where you've now gone to church and that's your fuel. I've left the church, but both
But you still follow God. So that's
100%.
that's that's the most important piece. That's the catalyst. That's the building blocks to everything, right? As long as you still believe, that makes you spiritual, right? Like I've been trying not to use the word religion, right? But it's like I'm programmed, I'm conditioned. I grew up with that word that I use it all the time, but I'm trying to shift from that and start saying spiritual. Because that's convoluted, right? The word religion,
Well, religion is
Christianity,
all
all
law
that stuff.
based. It's all based on laws, do's and don'ts.
Yeah,
That's
right.
religious. But
Like,
relationship and spiritual is that's based on being more like interactive with God. And I don't
right,
believe that, like my relationship, my getting into heaven, anything I do is based on this contractual relationship that I have to like hold up my end of striving to be perfect. It's
right.
like far too much work. That's like, then it negates the whole message of the cross. Why did Jesus die on the cross for a bunch of perfect people that are striving to get into heaven? Like, we don't need the cross then at all.
Right. Right. And yeah, I'm glad you said that. And we're gonna shift back to the topic. But so like I said, I love this. Like, that we shifted from one passion of mine to another. But the Bible says that nobody but God is righteous, right? Because righteous in biblically means perfect. And if the Bible's teaching us that only God is the truly righteous, why do a lot of people of faith or in churches tell you that you live in a sin if you're not striving to be perfect, or if you're not perfect in Christ? That doesn't exist in the but nowhere in the Bible does it tell you to be that way. God didn't create the world to be perfect, right? And that's it. It's because God, he's the creator, right? And he will be the destroyer if he chooses to. So it's like, if he wanted to be perfect, I'm pretty sure he could have made the world perfect,
Well, he
right?
did make it perfect initially, and then
Initially, initially, right? But okay, and I like to tell people all the time, like, he tried to rewrite that perfection several times, but man kept ruining it, right? Like we talk about the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. Well, that was recreated with Noah, right? His sons, like when he got drunk, right, in the vineyard. That's again, we can say that's like the new Garden of Eden, right? Like, his kids did what he did to him. It's like man just kept ruining God's perfection. So he knew these things, and that's why he gave us free will. He gave us the liberty to do as we please, and for lack of better words, like walk our walk the way we saw fit. But the end goal is to live as God would, right? To live with love, to lead with good intentions, right? So it's all about what we choose at the end of the day. So
yep, yep,
that's what I'm gonna say with that. So like I said, I go to church to be a better version of myself and to have a good relationship with God. And again, since January, it has shaped and molded me to be a different person, a better man, I would say. Because like now, sometimes whether I feel like I'm wrong or not, what I do now that I didn't do prior to January of 2026 is apologize to people. It's been times where in the past I knew I was wrong and I would not apologize for nothing. But now I do it, even if I feel like I'm right in the situation, but we had a disagreement or a dispute. I'll come back to you and like, listen, I could have handled that differently. I apologize. And some people ask me why, like, why you do that now, but you didn't do it now. I don't know. We talk about empowerment. It's something empowering about humbling myself and doing that, right? And I look at a lot of things in life as lessons from God now. Like I look at it like, why do I feel replenished? Why do I feel more whole when I apologize? Right? I don't know what it is. I can't tell you. But I say this is what God wanted. This is his plan. I don't know. I just feel more relieved when I go back and apologize. Like I said, I'm all about positivity. And if I wrong somebody or having a disagreement with somebody and it got heated, well, whether I feel resentment or that person feel resentment, that's not what life should be about. So I'll go back and I try to smooth that out. I'm like, listen, I apologize. And sometimes people try to put on these facades, but I see they faces. Sometimes they might crack a smile because it means something to them. So I try to be like that all the time. And I've been telling people for a long time. I have this thing where every day I try to do at least one good deed a day. Again, I'm an encourager. I'm a motivator. I'm an advocate for a lot of things. And so yeah, that's who I am. Let's see what this comment was.
my computer's down to like 21%, so I'll probably have like 5 to 10 minutes left with you. So it's done well. It held on longer than I thought, so that's good.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'll keep that in mind. I just let me know if it gets like low, then she said he came for sinners, not perfect people, and he didn't come to condemn the world. That's my friend, my good friend Jahira, man. She keep me grounded a lot. She's one person I reach to for scripture and spiritual guidance, and she's pulled me out of so many dark spaces in my life.
That's
So
awesome.
shout out to her. Let's see. So I took this note yesterday. Actually, I wanted to say on here. Transforming dating into a tool for personal empowerment means shifting from external validation to deep self-awareness by asking strategic qualifying questions. You can quickly assess relationship compatibility, bypass small talk, and avoid wasting time on incompatible matches. Right. Now, with that being said, what are some qualifying questions that could be asked to assess relationship compatibility?
Well, for me, like you just said, you were a man previously that wouldn't apologize, wouldn't be held accountable for that kind of stuff. Like those things are huge to me. So those would be questions I'm asking people. Like, and I think, like, how do you handle hard times? Like,
Right.
that says a lot. You learn a lot about somebody when they go through a hard time. So, I mean, sometimes it takes a lot to uncover that. I've also learned people say a lot of stuff about themselves, and then you see the real them. I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't true. Or they think that's how they are. And then
Yeah.
you see the real version of them come out. So, I don't know. Like, I think it just goes back to me, like the core values. So, for me, if I'm asking questions, it's going to be about my core values. Because if I don't feel like we can align, I don't want to waste my time. Like I said, like if I'm
Mm.
dating, it's because I'm looking for a romantic connection. If I want to be friends, I would handle the situation totally different. Like, I don't
Right.
care.
Right.
I want you in my space as a friend. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's where my brain goes because I'm a deep
Yeah.
thinker and I want to know, like, do we align? And you can't figure that all out in one date for sure. But
Right.
generally I know through somebody's energy how they're showing up once I've spent some time with them, if I want to go back and be with them again a second time or a third time or whatever.
Now, okay. So what's interesting is earlier you said you date with intentions. You're looking for a companionship or something long term, um, and that you're not looking for new friends. But this is the thing: do you not believe that a good relationship starts with a strong foundation, which will be a good friendship?
Yes, I totally do. Yes, I can qualify that. But I'm like, but if I'm gonna go on a date with somebody, there's gotta be some sort of connection. Like for me to go on a date with somebody means and like dating apps are shallow. So it's like I'm swiping all the time because it's based on how you look. Like I don't know anything about you other than the way you look to me when I see you on a dating app. So there's
Right.
gotta be some kind of connection first of like, oh, do I think you're attractive? Yeah, I do. Okay, there's step number one. Now I want to get to know a little bit more about you. So yes, it takes time. Like obviously friendship has to be part of that. And but there also has to be that connection that makes me feel like there could be potential for romance or I'm not going to go out with that person. I don't want to waste my time. That's where I'm
Right.
at. So I don't know if that makes sense. In my head it makes sense. Maybe I'm
No,
like
no, no.
these are
It makes sense.
juxtaposed.
I'm picking up what you're putting now. I get it, and that's what I'm saying. That's we both agree that that's what's hard about getting out there and trying to look with relationships. Right? It's tough. It's tough. I like to tell women all the time, like I'm contagious. I'm addictive. I have a addictive personality. I feel like I don't know. I feel comfortable and safe around any woman. I mean, that's just me. Um, um. So I know we got limited time. So let's see, core self-empowerment questions. Okay, so a lot of people, they fail to look inward, as you said earlier, right? Now, going into relationships, a lot of men and women, they need to ask themselves a series of questions, right? Like before evaluating a match, we should be asking ourselves core empowerment questions, to ground us, right, for dating clarity, right? We should be asking questions like, what are some of our negotiables, right, or our non-negotiables versus preferences, right? So, have you ever asked yourself, what are your non-negotiables versus your preferences? Because those are two different things. A lot
100%.
of people get it misconstrued.
Yeah,
So,
100%. I'm
what
gonna
are some what? Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say like one of my shallow ones. I'm human, right? So I'm just gonna show up being human. I like to be authentic and be me. So here's something that could be like a preference is height. I am attracted to people that are taller, but Is that like a non-negotiable? No. I've gone out on dates with some people that are 5'10". I'm 5'6". It's not like I'm this towering female, but I like to wear heel boots. Like I just like to wear stuff that elevates me, so I often dress up and wear high heel boots and things. So I liked I mean, maybe because I ended up marrying somebody who was married to somebody for 21 years that was over 6 feet tall. But that just tends to be across the board what I'm attracted to. So I kind of know myself at this stage in life, what I'm drawn to. But yeah, is that a non-negotiable? No, I'm willing to get to know somebody if I think they're attractive. Um, and non-negotiables for me are like if you can't apologize and own up to your side of things, I will not entertain like we're not going to see each other again. That to me, I will not do that. That's a huge important thing. That's that accountability piece. And when you've lived in a relationship where that's not been present, there's things I know I didn't have. I'm like, I'm not going back to that. So there's some very, yeah, very direct, pointed things for me that I will just be like, this is a no deal for me. Like,
Uh, So I would say another question that we should ask ourselves before trying to date or get into a new relationship is, are we looking for a partner or are we looking for a project? Right? Because a lot of times people we trauma bond, right? And we look for somebody that we can build and shape and mold to our liking instead of living life, getting to know somebody and really trying to find a partner, right? So have you
that's
ever
a
found
great
yourself in that space?
question.
Yeah.
Like, you just opened a can of worms. I wanna say subconsciously, women are probably looking for projects. I'm just gonna put that out
Ooh.
there.
Ooh.
Subconsciously. We may not be, like, consciously thinking about it. Here's something,
Yeah.
though. So, yes, like, I got married really young. I was always wanting to fix him and change him, and I did love who he was. It's not like I
Right.
married him not loving him, be like, "I'm just gonna change him into this perfect protege." No, but when you're 22, you haven't lived a lot of life and you are not that mature. Like, you're just
Right.
not. I'm 50 now. I have lived a lot of life and I've matured and I see where I made a lot of mistakes. Like, I can own up and be like, that was not the best way to think things. That was not the best move I made there. Like, I'll own all of that because I wanted to empower me and help me become a better version of me. So I was seeing this guy for a while. This is about 3 years ago. And I was chatting with my friend about him. And she said, this was like so defining for me. She said to me, "Do you feel like you want to fix him or change him?" And
Mhm.
I was like, "No, I don't." I was like, for the first time, I feel like I'm actually dating somebody who, like, this person was so different than me, like, very different in terms of, like, their style and the way they do life, but I was like, "No, I think I'm in a place where I'm confident enough in who I am, healed enough in what I've
Mhm.
gone through, that I can actually let this person be so uniquely them and not be threatened by it." That was a defining moment for me being like, "Wow, I have changed for the better." And I honestly felt like that was a really good measuring stick of, like, how I've healed. So,
Right. Now, you think your computer hold up for one last question or no?
yeah, yeah, no, we're good. I'm at 14%, it's holding out.
Okay. So this question it kind of goes back to what we was just talking about, right? This is another question that all of us should be asking ourselves before get trying to date or get into a new relationship is what are we still healing from, right? Because at the end of the day, it goes back to knowing ourselves and know where we are in life. Um, Sometimes the healing journey requires us to know what are we trying to heal from, so that when we try to give somebody else a chance, like we won't allow the same mistakes to happen. Right? A lot of times, again, with the trauma bonding, because we're traumatized, because we're emotionally wrecked and unstable and we're still healing, we're not thinking clearly, right? We're not setting these boundaries. We're not looking at the non-negotiables. We're not looking at none of that. We just diving headfirst into a new relationship because we want to feel whole. We want to feel brand new. We want excitement. We want a new smile on our faces, right? So going into new relationships, or when you was like 3 years ago, did you ask yourself that question? What are you still trying to heal from?
Yeah, I did. And there were some things I was very aware of because of the treatment I had, that was going on in my marriage. And then there's other things though that you don't know until you're in a relationship because you might have some trigger points that you're not aware of that are going to trigger you until you're in a new relationship, and you also have blind spots. So you're not
Right.
going to see everything. So I think like I just chose not to get into relationships partly because I'm a mom and I wanted to be a good role model for my daughters. I also really loved who I was married to, so I was not about to go rebound and just start doing things. Like I love myself and respect myself too much to do that. So that's my own personal choice. But also, I kept looking at it like if my girls were going through this, what advice would I give them? And I was like, I want to live out the life that I would give them the same advice as like, this is how I did it. Not that it was perfect. I'm not saying I did it perfect, but as a mom, I feel like I look back and I'm like, yeah, I can say I was a role model in some of the choices I made. So
Gotcha, gotcha.
I don't wanna puff myself up, be like, "Oh, yeah, I did this journey well." Like, no, like, because maybe the marriage wouldn't ended too, like, if I did own up to things, but I wasn't a perfect person, so that's what I'm saying, it takes 2. I will never throw my ex under the bus and be like, "It was all him." However, at the end of the day, I didn't choose to end it. That's the difference, I didn't choose to leave it.
Now, I love that you just said that, right? Because oftentimes when we get out of a relationship, we tend to bash the ex. And I love the fact that you say you will never do that. Like that speaks of your character, right?
Well, I
Because
did
wow.
I wanna just say, like, I did do it though. The human part of me, feeling emotions, feeling angry, feeling betrayed, feeling like you made a promise to me you're gonna love me till the day you died. Like, so I'm not gonna say I didn't. I don't want anybody to ever think, "Oh gosh, like, how is she this, like, Wonder Woman?" Like, that did no, I am very human, I had emotions. So I
But it's
but I won't that's not who I am, and that's not where I'm gonna stay
right.
there. I'm not gonna publicly do that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's about growth, right? So it doesn't matter the old Aaron, it's about the present you, right? And the present you chose a different path. And that's encouraging in itself. And I hope that a lot of the viewers and the listeners and just people in the world will be more like you in that aspect because when we get out of relationships, we shouldn't bash our exes, right? Like, I have two baby moms and I used to bash my first one and then I don't do that anymore. Like since this year, like, January, going to church and stuff, I've reached out to her, I try to check on her mental state, like, how are you doing and things of that nature, and I don't know, like I said, going to church and walking by faith, it has changed me, and yeah, that's one thing I do. I don't believe in bashing your exes because at one point you was with them, especially if you got kids with them. You like them or love them enough to sleep with them, lay with them, have kids with them. So don't bash because they're always going to be tied to you, right? So I love the fact that you said you won't do that for your ex. So that's good. Now, in closing, I want to say, to the viewers and whoever's listening, whether live or on the replay, in relationships, a lot of times it's not about listening to the answers, right? Empowerment in dating isn't just about the answers that we get, it's about paying attention to how we react to them, right? You agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Like sometimes we have to do a gut check, right?
Yeah.
We have to like, how does your partner's answers make our bodies feel, right?
Yeah.
Does it create a sense of intrigue or does it trigger anxiety, right? These are the things we need to look at in relationships. Because if it triggers anxiety, that lets you know there's an imbalance. It's something that needs to be changed. Or maybe you're not compatible with that person or wasn't compatible with that person. Maybe they wasn't the right fit. But if it makes you intrigued and things of that nature, then you're moving in a upward trajectory, right? Now
Yeah.
we always talk about red flags. We got to look at green flags, right? Does the person that we're with do they take responsibility for their mistakes? As you said, that's one of your non-negotiables, right? Do they listen actively? Do they respect your boundaries? Right? These are the things we got to look at in relationships because that those things we all should have in our relationships. We don't have that, then it's an imbalance. It's something it ain't right, and that's red flags right in front of our faces that we're ignoring, right? Because we do that a lot. We ignore the red flags. We gotta look at disqualifiers, right? If your partner give you one word answers, or if they always defensive, or they lack curiosity about your life, right? You have to give yourself permission to step away from that relationship because it's obviously not right. Because like I said, marriage and stuff like that is supposed to be a covenant. The thing is, when we get into a serious relationship, or it's about your ambitions, your dreams is now my dreams, right? Because we're supposed to uphold each other, we're supposed to uplift each other, I mean, and we take that on. Just like when a man gets with a woman that has kids, it's a package deal. So my dreams, my ambitions, my goals, it's a package deal. And once you enter a covenant or a relationship and you both have that mindset, that's a recipe for success, right? So these are the things we all got to look into any new relationship, or current relationship for that matter. Anything else you want to add before we close out?
No, I agree with all of that. I think, like, as much as you're looking for red flags, you can get hung up on the red flags. And I know this about me because I actually learned that I can be a self sabotager and look for
Mhm.
things that will make me not want to commit and be in a relationship based off of the past. So it is really important to see some green flags and look for the positive, look for the things that are going to help you. Because I think in this stage of the journey, due to the past and everybody's experiences, whatever they've gone through relationally, um, fear can be a big hindrance. And so it's putting that in a healthy place so that that is not the thing that drives you and overrides your decision making power. So I would just add that.
Got you. So all right, that's going to conclude today's episode. We hope everybody that's tuned in. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you tune into. I think I want to say Sunday. I have it's not set in stone yet, but I think Sunday I have another episode. Uh, Same idea, same concept as today's. But if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you comment, share, and just spread the word for me. Oh, and before I leave, I do have just one bit of exciting news for me, at least, is I have a co-host that I never did the co-host thing before. This is season 3. I might break this up and make this episode 1 of season 4. I'm not sure yet, but I now have a co-host that she won't be on every episode because her schedule got to link up with mine. But I will have a co-host, and that's going to be exciting. Give new, fresh perspective on things. So that's exciting. So look forward to that. Hold on, I got comments before I close out. What is this? Great podcast. Yeah, I appreciate you, Jahara. But yeah, so that's my exciting news for today. So I look forward to that. She might be on next week. We gotta sit together and figure out a time and stuff. But Erin, as I said earlier, you're more than welcome to come on anytime you want. I'm always here. So if I post a flyer and you see it, you say, "Hey, I want to be part of that," just let me know and I'll send you the link. But yeah, again, that's going to conclude today's episode. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay positive, stay you, be blessed. All right.
Okay, perfect. Am I back?